Hello, everyone. I'm here today with one of my dear friends, Dr. Bob Pick. I want to talk about what we're doing here. I'd like to be able to connect with people better, Bob. I think social media becomes a screen, and we can't get away from the obstacle that we can make a human connection. And that leads to a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of trolling, and a lot of toxicity. But I think if you put a face to the message, it can help people understand each other better. I also want to thank you. I've had people join my group because you've mentioned our group in your lectures. And for those of you who don't know Dr. Pick, he lectures around the world. He is a periodontist and practices probably about, what, 5 miles away from me? I want to ask you to tell me who Bob Pick is. I want to know you. I want to know Bob Pick. What makes you tick, my friend?
My heart. But that's somewhat true. What makes me tick is one of I think my missions in life has been to always help others super succeed. And my mom used to tell me when I was little, going to grammar school, kindergarten, that on the bus, I would always try to help people that have problems. I don't remember any of that at all. But you never know where time takes you. And I never thought I would be known as the Purple Cow Wow guy. I never thought I would have a Facebook group called Purple Cow Wow. Probably, when you first knew about me, you probably never suspected that you'd be on a YouTube thing right now with dentistry in general in the background, with the San Francisco Bridge there, one of the coolest things on planet Earth. So you never know where time takes you. But I think you got to be nice to people. You got to help people. And so Purple Cow Wow is simply to help separate you from everybody else, because everybody always says the same thing. So that's Bob Pick.
Yeah, and Bob, you're very modest in explaining yourself and talking about Purple Cow Wow and the Facebook groups, but people need to understand who Bob Pick is as far as the educator. You're still at Northwestern Medical School, right? You still teach, and you still teach around the country, and you do lecture on different things. The business of dentistry, no pun intended, for my friend Dr. Hoffbauer with his group, giving him a little plug. But you talk about the business of dentistry, and you talk about periodontics. And how often do you lecture on either? Are you mainly now on the business side?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to make a really long answer short, in 1983, literally 8 weeks out of my residency, and I've always taught a day a week. I don't think I could ever teach full time. I would probably tell one of the deans to, and Bob would probably do the same thing. But very early on, I was put on hospital staff at Northwestern to help the residents with their medical rotations, which we now had. And I was the first person in the world I pray this doesn't come out arrogant, to ever use a laser in the mouth, ever. I co-wrote the first textbook, published about the first 40 articles, and it put me on an international lecture circuit. There was no internet at the time, no social media. But the greatest thing it did, because Gordy Christensen not too long ago asked me, you pioneered lasers. Every time somebody uses it today, and most people don't know who you are anymore with lasers, there's no bleeding, no swelling, no suturing, no scarring. Is that the greatest thing? And I said, no. It put me face to face with all you guys. You became my mentors. You guided me. I wish I would have listened to half of what you said. The likes of Ron Goldstein, Dave Garber, Denny Tarnow, Pete Dawson, and Gordy taught me so much. But I left lasers about 1995 due to I used them every day, ethical issues. I then lectured with a colleague, Dave Newkirk, on perio-restorative. But you never know where time takes you. About the last 10 years, I don't think I've given a lecture on clinical periodontics and implants, except in our academy on how to use PowerPoint and how to lecture effectively. So the last 10 years, it's been all ethical business.
Yeah, that's awesome, because when I actually reached out to you during the early days of my group, there were companies coming at me trying to advertise. I don't know who they were. And I've made mistakes. I'm the first to admit it, doing business with a couple of companies that I no longer do business with. But I asked you, I need to know about lasers. What do you know? And you introduced me to Rick Cardoza, our friend, and he was your student, I think, at Northwestern. And Rick has become my mentor on lasers. Whenever I have a question, I go to him. So it's like the 6 degrees of separation with Bob Pick. You know, you introduced me to all these people, and it's been very beneficial to educate me. It is amazing that you were able to transition from clinical lectures to this, and we were calling you the OG. And one of the conversations I had on the side with some of the influencers in the world, like, oh, Bob Pick is the OG. He did it before all of us. And I really appreciate that. Now, tell me about this purple cow wow. To me, purple cow wow means be unique, create a niche, and make sure you take care of people ethically. It is so important because dentists graduate with a lot of debt and they're lost. They have an identity problem, in my opinion, come from what I hear from them. Am I going to do Medicaid? Am I going to do PPO, fee for service? Should I do a startup? Should I buy a small practice? Should I go in and work for a DSO or a private practice? There's so much out there. And I think creating a philosophy of how you want to practice for the next 10 years is important. Talk to me about that.
To enter it really quick, I had to pay a bet up about 5 years ago that occurred in 1994. I was lecturing at Yankee. Roger Levin and Linda Miles were sitting at my dinner table. Some of you may not know who they are. That night, we're all speaking there, and Roger says to me, "You're going to end up in practice management one day, dude." And I looked at him and I said, "What are you crazy?" Because I've been in practice 40 years. Early on, practice management people were a little bit interesting. Roger came out okay. Linda, oh, awesomely okay. Linda said the same thing. You're going to end up in management. And I said, bet you $100, no way. And they were right, because I didn't even pay attention to it. I was lecturing on lasers at that time, but at the end of my lecture, my slides had make sure you have a mission, a vision, make sure you look good, never even make sure you got the right team. Didn't even realize that. And so what Purple Cow Wow is separating yourself from the competition. And just to go backwards again, at that time, one of the other things that Roger pointed out is everybody lectures, I'm going to age myself now, with one projector, one screen, and a carousel of slides. You know, if you're lecturing all day, you may have 8 carousels or something. But I had a brainstorm. And when I was lecturing at that time, I would drive AV people cuckoo. I say I need 3 screens, 3 projectors, the screens put together. There was no such thing yet as a 16:9 screen. And below the middle projector, I want a VHS video. And so it took me a lot of organization time in my personal study. I had these things where you put the slides up. I had a left screen, a left carousel, middle carousel, right carousel. So the audience would be blown away. And every once in a while, on the left screen would be a before, on the right screen and after. The middle screen had a dark slide, and I would play a 2-minute video of the procedure. The audience would be like that. It got me more lecture gigs than Carter says pills. But as Linda pointed out to me in one of those lectures, Bob, that was one of your first Purple Cow wows, separating yourself from everybody else. And going way back in time, Dave Garber is responsible for that, for planting in my brain. When you're up there on stage, do something to really make yourself stand out. So Purple Cow Wow comes from, I'm never going to reach it here, but it comes from a book from Seth Godin, a New York Times bestseller from maybe 14 years ago called Purple Cow. I joke when I lecture, 2 number 2 bathroom breaks, you got the book read. And the moral of the story, you're up in Wisconsin, every cow is black and white, looks the same. They're called Holstein cows. You just keep driving. But if all of a sudden you saw a purple cow and it was real, there'd be a traffic jam, pictures, news people overhead. We're live from Madison, Wisconsin, where there's a true purple cow. So I won't bore you with the story from some podcasts. I got named the Purple Cow Wow guy, and I added, with ethics and excellence always, you got to separate yourself from the competition. So to further your question, with going backwards, I don't want to go into the story because it's way too long, but in 1998, I was given less than 6 months to live. I was the first case ever in Northwestern, a very rare cancer in my appendix. I survived, few side effects, not worth going into, but it caused me to make Purple Cow Wow change. I did things I never would have done. Einstein has a great quote, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. I had a great practice partner, just wasn't meant to be. Bought him out right away. I hired a coach who was Purple Cow. I had to sign a secrecy agreement. I can't say who she coached until they pass away. They're in their 90s, but don't pass away. And within a year and a half, I said to her, "You've been amazing. I'm now going to up it one." And people think out of the box. Early on in my laser career, I was brought to General Electric. They wanted to get into the dental laser business. And I met Jack Welch. Who's Jack Welch? I was so innocent at the time. We became wonderful friends. He's dying today that GE is not a Fortune 500 company. But I went to a couple of meetings and I realized not only him, Fortune 500 companies, people go away for a team building business retreat to make that company better. And I developed the PBR, Pick Business Team Building Retreat. And when you speak, always turn your phone off. And so the PBR, and this is so important, Bob, when you do a premier PBR, it allows you to become a purple cow wow, and it separates you from everybody else. It's where you develop your mission, your vision, your culture statement. You have to figure out your why. Every dentist knows how they do what they do. They know what to do. They know how to give a block. They know how to prep the tooth. They know how to put the crown on. But do you know why you do what you do? And Simon Sinek came up with the why for Apple. And when he did, Apple and Steve Jobs became a Fortune 500 company. You got to have team reports. And when I coach an office in their premier PBR, or I do my own first week of March, my own is coming up. We always go live. Each department reports. My office manager talks. The hygiene department reports. Each report's maybe 15 minutes about what's going on, what's happening, what do we need to do. The assistants report. The administrative team reports. And all of my team members, people know how to read scientific articles. And already for this meeting coming up, each have 4 articles they got to report on to make sure that we're leading the curve. We got surprise guest speakers coming up. And I don't want to say who they are. And the premier ones usually I started mine in 1990, 2000, I think. Within 1 year, it became a 2-day biannual retreat. The team comes away excited, endorphin high, all kinds of fun surprises. We do it away from the office, people, because if you do it in the office, there's going to be too many distractions. The phone, the computer, this sort of stuff. I use a thing called White Eagle Golf Club. It's 3 stoplights from my office. And so we have breakfast, lunch, so on and so forth. But when you do that, you separate yourself from the competition because you got to figure out what do you do different and better than anybody else. And if anybody wants, reach out to me. I will send you the Purple Cow Wow assignment. You and your team got to figure out things that no one else does. So I know I went a little bit overboard there, but it is important.
It's awesome because first of all, I want to let people know that Bob and I are friends, that we do not have a financial arrangement. He's not paying me for this. I want this kind of conversation to be get to know the people you see on social media. Early on, Paul Goodman gave me an advice, trying to paraphrase. You don't have to make money about everything you do. Sometimes you do it to make connections, to help people. If I can help someone watching this to think about how can I distinguish myself, how can I survive, and how can I thrive? And these are the things that you talk about. You and I have different practice models. I'm a PPO, you're fee for service, you're a specialist, I'm a general dentist. But I have to tell you, and at every aspect of my life, including my platform on social media now, I try to be a little different.
Well, you've become a Purple Cow Wow. And I don't think, and it's why when I lecture, I always say to the audience, pay attention here, people. And of course, that captures their attention. There's about 4 or 5 Facebook groups you've got to be on if you want to super succeed. And DIG is always mentioned because it's got information that you got to know. And so you separated yourself from the competition. If you didn't separate yourself from the competition, like me, you would have not been at the premier Podfest with Glenn Vo, and you wouldn't have been on that panel, period.
Right. Yeah. And also, I think, the people that I associate myself and talk to on social media are usually people who are very transparent, right? You and I have had discussions in private. Dentists love transparency. In other words, I don't have a problem if Bob Pick is making money from a business as long as we know what that business is. We have a choice. Nobody forces us to buy anything. And also just let people know, hey, this is a partner, a financially partner of mine. But the important thing is to be genuine and to be helping dentists and the profession. And when I hear, and I'm going to rant a little bit here, when I hear prominent dentists in organized dentistry telling me, oh, I don't do social media, or I'm not on Facebook, I just don't like it. I'm like, then do not run for a leadership position. You do not deserve or belong, because social media is the new media. Nobody's watching the 5 o'clock news from NBC like 50 years ago. We don't even know who chairs those anymore, right? So people are getting their information from social media, and not only our audience should be on social media, but our leaders should be connecting with people on social media. I want to give you a couple of minutes at the end to just tell me about what you're doing and if you have any seminars coming up.
Got a couple quick things. First off, you're 100% correct. And I had this discussion with someone who's going to go and mention the other day, and I was talking and I said, you know, where's your social media presence? Went on and on, few bad words. And I said, dude, I hate to tell you this, but this is the real world. And people don't necessarily go to TV anymore, do things. Social media is the greatest way to communicate, because like what we're putting on right now, who knows, 20,000 years from now, somebody could look back on it and go, God, look at those guys. They're wearing glasses. You know, we don't have that anymore. So you never know. But one of the things I decided to do, I started a Purple Cow Wow Mastermind, and I have coaching. And, you know, every Sunday night at 8 Eastern, I have a podcast. Every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, Thursday Night Live, and Industry Leaders and Experts, which you've been on, and we're going to for sure interview again. But the mastermind meets for 10 months. It meets for 3 hours on a Friday afternoon for 10 months. And there's surprise guest speakers. There's all kinds of things. It's probably not the cheapest thing on planet Earth, but you come away to explode. We cover everything that you got to do to make your practice super successful, where you get 100% case acceptance, where you know what's going on, how to do the morning huddle right, how to do social media right. It goes artificial intelligence. It goes on and on and on. I never thought I would be a coach. Yet about 2 hours before we came on, someone hired me as a coach. Part of me chuckles because I'm like, I never would have imagined, but I want that person to super succeed, period. And with ways that you never thought of. And I'm going to throw a ping in here, people. I want you to all remember this. And I added a quote to one of my lectures recently, and I looked to see if anyone else had it. You can tell 1,000 people how to do something that has an amazing return on investment. Only 1 in 1,000 may do it. That's just human nature. If I would have listened to half of what my mentors taught me early on or told me to do, I'd give Warren Buffett a run for his money. But I never listened. I knew more than they did. But remember this, people, video engages 1,200 times greater than text. What we're doing right now engages in your brain 1,200 times greater than if we had this written down. And imagine if you had $1,200 in your pocket and you multiplied it by 1,200, you'd have $1,400,000. Not bad. Video. Here's the little trick I'm going to teach you that if you do it, we're going to blow your patient away. Let's see if I can do it in 60 seconds or less. Whenever a patient has a procedure, I don't care if you're putting on veneers, putting on a crown, doing a surgery, putting an implant, my team gives me a post-surgical call sheet, which has the patient's name, the procedure we did. We call them the night of the surgery. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. But then right after our morning huddle, the team, it's like a coordinated event. And most of the team leaves our conference room. 2 of my team members grab stuff. One grabs a phone stabilizer. One grabs the sheet. We stand in a certain position. I grab my personal cell phone with the phone stabilizer. And hi, Bob. It's Bob Pick. We call this our post-surgical video check. And never fun to sit while you're sitting. But I'm so glad those veneers were done. I'm so glad that implant was done. Everything went so smooth from my end. Little tenderness for deer, so it's going to be normal. Any problems? My number's 24/7. I give them my office phone. This is my cell phone. Please reach out. Let me know you're doing okay. Can't wait to see you next week. And from Gosha, hope everything's doing well. Bye. Nina, bye. And We always make it 60 seconds or less. Some carriers don't allow video over 59 seconds. Then, as a coordinated event, at 11:30 a.m., we send that video to the person's cell phone. One, it blows them away. It's a purple cow wow. Why do we do it at 11:30? Most people are at work heading towards lunch. They show it to every one of the people where they work. It is one of the greatest practice builders. It's a purple cow. Wow. It's a blow away. Go to dental economics, put in triple PVC. You'll see the article. All right. There's my rant.
I really appreciate it. And I know we have a mutual friend that is a stickler to these things. Once again, an announcement. I do not have any financial interest in Dr. Pick's business. We're just friends. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you soon.